What's happening, guys? TMD here, Central Wisconsin. It is March 30th. The fat lady has sung. The season's over. It's time to pull the taps, talk about the season, give you a little recap. So stay tuned. All right, I just want to show you guys first what kind of sap has been coming in the last couple days. This is what that sap looks like, okay? It's almost got like a blue tint to it. I would suggest that you don't make that stuff. Just stop. It's not worth it. It's hard to go through the filter press. You might get some like commercial grade price for it, but why put that stuff out on the market? It doesn't filter well. There's really no use for it. I mean, maybe somebody would buy it for commercial grade, or they have some use for it, like a packer, but we don't make it. I don't sell bulk syrup, so we bottle everything we have ourselves and market it ourselves. So we got no use for that. Jack and my nephew Henry, they've been in here pulling taps already the last couple days. They didn't quite finish. Jack had to go, they were on spring break. Jack had to be with his mom this weekend, and Henry had to go back to the Twin Cities. So I'm gonna get in here and pull the rest. But before I do that, let me show you something here. So this was the syrup that was made. You'll also see this stuff too. So let me put this on the truck. This is some syrup that was made from the last tapped woods that I did, which is actually running really, really good right now. It's still running great, running like crazy. Probably getting over 1.5 gallons of sap per tap yet. But you look at this and you're like, oh, that's some really nice light colored stuff. That's sometimes what happens at the very end when the trees start budding. You'll get really, really light colored syrup that has absolutely no maple flavor, and in this case, a terrible flavor. This stuff is nasty. I mean, it's some of the worst stuff I've ever tasted in my life. Bitter, just kind of a nasty, gross aftertaste. So, you know, that's what happened with that. It can do some weird things at the end. I've seen this happen one time before where it just turned light, and it's like the lightest syrup you ever have seen. But again, off flavor, terrible. So don't make that either. As I'm pulling taps here, guys, I'm finding stuff that we never found all season. Check this one out. I don't know if you can hear that, but this tree, it's just sucking air. It's hollow, although there's still sap coming. There's just air sucking through this tree. So that one right there is a leak I never found all season long. And of course, that probably dropped the vacuum an inch right there. I kind of wonder why I couldn't get this woods up to quite where I wanted to. I walked through it myself one time, and Albert, he was walking through it too. And well, it's stuff like that, stuff that you don't find, the hollow trees, that will affect that. Guys, what I like to do as a practice is I like to pull the taps with the vacuum running. Obviously you can hear the vacuum running here. And then what I do is I feel it gets the majority of the sap out of the lines. Instead of just leaving the sap in the lines, I try to clear it out. I'll pull it, I'll wait till it sucks air, you can hear air so it's clear, and then I'll plug it off on the tee. So I do these extensions, guys, and so you have to pull that off. In some instances you can do it with your hand, but you do have to do that. I think it was pounded in there too tight. I didn't tap this woods. I had help doing it, and despite kind of giving them direction, some of these guys were pounding these in like nails, and then that too will affect your vacuum, because you don't want to pound too hard because it can split the surface of the tree at the tap hole, and then you'll lose vacuum through a micro leak right there. There's a sign of spring right here. There's a flower coming up. I am not a good flower person, so I don't really know what that's called. Let me know in the comments. But that's definitely a sign that it's over when you start seeing the flowers coming up. Now this work out here ain't rocket scientist, guys, or I mean rocket science. Woo! It's kind of mind-numbing work, but for me it's kind of nice to get out here in the woods and do this, because over the last few years I've relied mainly on a lot of help to do this. Well, I'm up in the world headquarters kind of managing the bottling and, you know, the evaporator and stuff like that when the season's going on, and I don't get out in the woods as much anymore. So it's really kind of relaxing and kind of peaceful out here, enjoying the fresh air. Now that we're walking around, take a look at this behind me. Right here, this is the remains of actually 2 old quote-unquote evaporators that we had out here in the woods, and this is the spot right here where I learned how to do it on this one. I remember coming out here as a little kid with my grandpa and my dad, and all that had on there was just a big old open flat pan, and we would boil it down on there. No dividers in the pan, no flue pan, just big batch method, and we'd pour it into milk cans, you know, used it ourselves and gave a little bit away. This is the remains of a tree. I remember this tree right here. It's so funny how there's nothing left of it, but coming up through the years, this tree was right by the pans where we cooked, and that tree would probably get like 6 or 7 taps in it every year, and it succumbed to over tapping. But those are just some memories of being in this woods. This is the original woods. This woods has been tapped many, many, many years. All the trees have been tapped many, many times. It's almost getting kind of hard to find places to tap on the trees. We might have to look at tapping below the lateral line, taking the spout and tapping down here to find new spaces and places to get a good healthy tap, because some of these areas up here, you know, they are maybe getting into some wood that doesn't flow real good anymore because they've been tapped many, many, many years. So a lot of people are going to ask, TMD, what kind of season did you have? Well, obviously, as you know, it was a strange winter. It was very mild. Here in central Wisconsin, we hardly had any snow. And as we went through the winter, you know, we just didn't get much cold weather at all. And then the temps that you like to see for maple sap syrup season started coming along already the last week of January. Well, we weren't tapped or ready to go at that point. We're still maintaining tubing. It took a lot to get ready, and you just don't expect it on that timeline. So we didn't get tapped then. We got tapped about mid-February. And now for a lot of the people, the trolls in the comments, what's weird about that is they like to see you fail. Okay? Wow. They like to be justified that their decisions were right and your decisions were wrong. Guys, worry about yourself. I don't care. I hope you had a great season. I hope the decisions you made were right for you. But if you want to come on here and ask me, oh, do you think you were wrong, or do you think you were right by waiting when tapping when you did? Why are you that worried about it? But with that being said, guys, I did tap earlier than we normally do on the calendar. I mean, it still was a couple weeks before that. And the season overall it was down. I'm not going to tell you my production. I'm not going to tell you my pounds per tap. Once the trolls in the comments start asking about what kind of pounds per tap you got, I know these guys have too much time on their hands and they need to get a real hobby. Sugar content was down. We just didn't have the greatest weather for it once we got going. Now, oddly enough, when we're pulling taps, the syrup season weather that you want is kind of here now, but it's too late because the trees are all partially budded. Thanks for taking a walk with me. Thanks for watching, and guys, we're gonna focus on new content coming up in the future. I'm not trying to make this not a maple channel, but I'm trying to broaden the reach of it. Maple is very niche, and there's a few other guys out there that's what they really want to do is just make a maple specific channel. I'd like to do a little bit more than that. Like, we love our ATV riding, the old school machines. We're gonna get into a little bit more of like maybe an outdoor channel or just adventure channel. Jack and I have some trips coming up that we have planned. We're probably gonna try to drive way up into Canada and see some polar bears, so stay tuned for that. I know it sounds a little crazy, but that's what's going on. Please like and subscribe. Have a great week. And I always say, remember, always keep it real.